Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a case that just completely defies logic and closure. We're talking about the chilling true story of a serial killer who literally challenged the authorities, terrorized an entire state, and, well, actually won. Yep, today we're unpacking the Zodiac Killer mystery.
I want you to just sit with this thought for a second. What if a serial killer openly challenged the police, totally manipulated the press, and then never got caught? I mean, it sounds exactly like the plot of a Hollywood thriller, right? But for the San Francisco Bay Area in the late 1960s, this was a terrifying reality. People were absolutely terrified to go out at night, especially to isolated spots. We're looking at a murderer who totally evaded justice, leaving behind grieving families, a massive legacy of fear, and some seriously frustrating unanswered questions that are still haunting us today.
Let's start with Part 1, Terrorizing Northern California.
So the thing about the Zodiac is he didn't just hide in the shadows. He orchestrated this wildly public reign of terror. He started with these awful attacks on young couples in lovers' lanes and then eventually escalated to just brazenly claiming responsibility for multiple murders. But the violence? That was really only half of his twisted game. He actively forced the media to participate by sending these incredibly cryptic, taunting letters to major newspapers like the San Francisco Chronicle and the Vallejo Times-Herald, and he signed them with that famous crosshair symbol. In these letters, he was literally daring the police to stop him. He even made that infamous, horrifying threat to shoot out the tires of a school bus and pick off the kids as they came bouncing out. It was just this rapid-fire sequence of public challenges that completely paralyzed the public and, as you can imagine, sent law enforcement into an absolute frenzy.
Next up, cryptic letters and cracked codes. Now, this right here is the ultimate maddening paradox of the whole investigation. The Zodiac demanded the newspapers print his complex secret ciphers or else, he'd kill again. And here's the crazy part. Some of them actually got cracked. The very first one, this 408-symbol cipher, was figured out in just a few days by a local school teacher and his wife. It had these chilling messages in it like, "I like killing people because it is so much fun." Then, jump way ahead to 2020, and an international team of amateur codebreakers finally cracks his notoriously difficult 340-character cipher. But the ultimate prize, his actual identity, that remained totally hidden. So even when these incredibly complex codes were broken, they gave the police zero tangible answers. The killer basically used the codes to taunt everyone while making totally sure they never actually revealed the man behind the mask.
Which brings us to decades of dead ends. The sheer scale of this investigative failure is honestly staggering. It all starts with that raw, visceral terror in the late 60s, with cops scrambling to secure crime scenes and chase fleeing shadows. But as the decades rolled on, law enforcement chased down literally every conceivable lead. I'm talking over 2,500 suspects formally interviewed. Think about that number. They had prime suspects too, like Arthur Lee Allen, who had some incredibly compelling circumstantial evidence stacked against him. But, and it's a huge but, every single time investigators thought they finally had their guy, the physical evidence, the fingerprints, handwriting, and later DNA, it just didn't match. So here we are, 50 years later, still staring at a completely unsolved mystery. Despite all that time, a massive amount of resources, and intense public scrutiny, nobody has ever been officially charged with these crimes.
So let's look at an enduring American mystery.
50+ years. That number is a stark, heavy reminder of a trail that has gone completely freezing cold. More than half a century later, the original detectives have retired or passed away, and yet the Zodiac is still one of America's greatest unsolved mysteries. But hey, the case isn't entirely dormant. It's actually taken on a whole new life. Today, advanced DNA genealogy, the exact same tech that finally caught the Golden State Killer, is constantly being evaluated to see if it can be used on the incredibly scarce physical evidence the Zodiac left behind. Meanwhile, there's this massive, dedicated community of internet sleuths who are still poring over every single letter and police report. The passage of over 50 years really highlights the agonizing limits of our justice system, but it also shows the heavy, unresolved weight that still hangs over the victims' families and American true crime culture today.
After half a century of cracked ciphers, endless suspect lists, and heartbreaking dead ends, it all boils down to one lingering question. A question that still frustrates investigators and fascinates the public. Who do you think the Zodiac Killer really was? Well, thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I'd love to invite you to follow along for more true crime mysteries, where we'll keep uncovering the facts and breaking down the incredible stories that simply refuse to be forgotten.